Hey everybody, I'm Philip.
And I'm Justin.
And together we are Pajamas. And we are about to watch a very special movie. To me at least. This year for October, we're going to watch a different horror movie every single week. One per week. So I think it's 5 weeks this year. So we're going to watch 5 movies, each one significant in some way. This list was compiled by Justin. You gave me a list of several, and I narrowed it down. This was on the list just because you probably heard me talk about it a lot. And that is Children of the Corn.
It's about time that I actually see it myself so that I can really understand what you're saying when you reference it.
Based on a short story by Stephen King, which I think is like 20 pages long. So I'll get into that afterwards. For reference, this is the very first horror movie I ever watched when I was 8 years old. Because I am old. Also reference, we are doing this in advance. We are not watching these each week in October just because scheduling will not allow it. There's just no way. We were like, we need to do it early if we're going to do it at all. So full disclosure.
Instead of watching them in October, we're watching them for October.
Exactly. Yeah. Which gives us time to watch them. It gives me time to edit them, to fit them around all the other stuff we're working on. So I'm really excited to show it to you. We'll see what you think after we're done. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Happy birthday. Is that a proposal?
No. It's not.
Okay. Well,
Listen, I'm just worried about this internship, okay? I've been working for this for 4 years.
I know. Why do you have to be such a jerk about it?
He said he couldn't take it anymore. He was pretty scared. I wasn't. I'm scared. Me too.
There's nothing to be. Make sure nobody's looking.
Okay, go! Nobody's looking! Nobody's looking!
Subtle.
But there's no room for the fornicator.
Oh,
No room for the homosexual.
no! It's not on here. It's gotta be on here somewhere.
Frank, look out!
3, 4, 5, 6. 7. All right, see? $13,100. $13,100. Let's pretend this guy is Isaac, and we're gonna put him in jail. What if he gets a get out of jail free card? What card?
Jesus Christ.
Not in my book.
This road will becoming a regular highway. Ain't this about the 3rd car in a month, huh?
Jesus Christ. Gatlin, what do they have, a monopoly on road signs? What about Hemingford?
Maybe turn around. You're going down the dirt corn road.
God, this isn't even a road. I'm never gonna get out of here.
Road 2, now stop it.
I don't care how much religion they've got. We're going there right now. Don't ever show up in my emergency room, buddy.
So take you his life and spill his blood. Like what?
did?
Upon the
Yeah.
earth. But let not the flesh pollute the corn.
Take us 20 minutes.
We just found people.
Yeah. 3 kids who tried to steal our car.
Let's check it out.
Why? I thought we were going.
Settle down.
Don't patronize me,
I'm
Bert.
not patronizing you. I just want to see if somebody's there.
Listen, could you take us to Isaac?
Mm-mm.
Why not?
He's scary.
Because we have a murder to report.
And we're standing here talking in circles, wasting our time.
Well, maybe she can help.
Well, fine, then you stay here with her.
Vicky!
Hurry, get Isaac! No, wait. Bring Malachi.
You rewriting the whole thing or just the parts that suit your needs? Damn it!
But we gotta hurry.
Who are you?
Job, come on. Stop asking questions.
Cut the woman down. Put Isaac in her place.
Yeah,
We will see how the Lord favors you.
No, you dare not use blaspheme.
Outlander! We have your woman!
Vicky, get out of here!
Was this how it was with your parents?
Any religion without love and compassion is false. It's a lie.
Hip slap. Where's my money? Where's my money?
He wants you too, Malachi.
Joby, get some help and get those doors closed, quick!
Peter, Robert, come on. What do we do?
Why
It's
not?
he who walks
To
behind
help
the road.
an adult.
Doesn't fit! There's gotta be a connector around here somewhere.
Help me move
See if you can find me a thick rag!
Joby, come here. Hey, that's not a rag.
What are you doing here? Get back to the barn, hurry up! Go on, move! Now!
Excuse me.
Right?
Is he dead?
I think so.
Then why are we still
Just
running?
keep going.
Where'd you get this guy? Yeah, I'll make it. Got a great doctor.
Jealous?
So what are
You're
we
like
gonna
8.
do with these two little munchkins, huh?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, she's out cold. What are we gonna do now?
Send her a get well card from Seattle. Get her out of here.
That was very interesting.
Cool. Cool. So yes, that was the very first horror movie I ever saw. Imagine being 8 years old and watching that.
Then again, actually, in the story, so are they, and we saw all of that.
But imagine being 8 and like that's the first piece of horror you consume. Like I snuck this movie. It was on HBO. I wasn't supposed to watch it, and I did.
What was your first impression when you saw it?
Oh, I loved it. I'm still a horror fan to this day. I immediately started reading Stephen King. Seeing this was like awakened an appetite, like a thirst for more. It was so neat and so imaginative and so scary and so fun that I wanted more and more and more. And that's what I did. That's what I've been doing ever since. Decades later, I still consume horror. First and foremost above any other genre. I think in our time together, I've shown you more horror movies than probably anything. Now, sadly, I can't read horror as much as I used to because of this and, angles and, books are hard for me to read. And not because I can't read. I can read. They're just hard. Like, my condition is very delicate. So this was the gateway drug. This was my marijuana when I was 8. Children of the Corn. What are some of your impressions from it now? Granted, this is 1984.
Despite the time period, it was actually done very well. The storytelling, especially.
Other than the special effects, I think the storytelling holds up.
Oh yes, it made use of the suspense very well.
Yeah. I think for being like a 20-page story, to make an entire movie out of that, it's pretty cool. So once I read the story later, I was even more impressed with it. Yes, I may be old, and yes, I may have been born decades ago, but I think that I'm happy that this was my first introduction to horror, like legitimate horror. Because then after this, like I said, it became like this, like I started like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, all the campy 80s horror movies that I grew up on, followed suit. My favorite thing probably about, I have two favorite things. The number one though is the score. The music is phenomenal. Like,
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
We sat simply listening to the ending credits.
Which I don't usually do. I adore the music in this. Just like a children's choir thing. Just, it's so simple, but it's effective. It's beautiful, and it fits perfectly. Now, granted, like I said, I saw this when I was 8, but I've not seen it in like decades. It's been a long time. I own it, but I haven't actually watched it. It's just I have it because sentimental value. I knew the major beats, but it was kind of cool looking at it from like a different viewpoint, different eyes that hadn't seen it in probably 30 years, maybe. Like I don't know when I last saw this.
I especially liked it that, well, except perhaps the ending. Well, all right, the ending. That it made. Well, it's a sort of horror that could actually happen, which makes it much more suspenseful.
Yeah.
Some horrors that I like are actually ones that actually can happen in reality and don't involve some sort of supernatural entity.
Yeah, that's I think it's kind of agreed upon that that's the weakest part of this, mainly because of the effects. And 1984. I would love if someone could like get the somehow get the original film of it, like somehow get the original footage, like untampered without all of it, and then add new stuff in. Redo the stuff climbing up, the Isaac on the crucifix. Redo the thing in the cornfield. Redo that stuff, because I think I think the movie did a good job of tell, don't show. This, like, he who walks behind the rose. Well, who is that? You see it written. You see, it's like this lore is being built up.
Yes, for a while I assumed that is that some sort of expression that they use when referring to a god of some kind. That's when I first heard them say that. That's what I assumed it to mean.
Yeah.
Since it seemed that, well, basically it was about religious fanaticism. So I immediately thought that
some kind of evil entity that lived in the corn.
And I was actually surprised that actually there was something in there.
Yep. Now, would it have been better if they hadn't shown that? If it just been this, like, as you said, fanaticism that Isaac came up with, and some kind of like megalomaniacal need for control and power? Maybe.
It would have still been a psychological horror. With the use of herd mentality, it shows the horror of what can happen with it.
But another reason I wanted to get your take on this is because one of your 2 degrees is in religious studies. So from that perspective, what do you think of what you saw, the indoctrination, did it remind you of anything? Did it borrow from anything that you...
Looking at it, it looked like they were some sort of isolation group. An isolationist group in which they are completely cut off from everyone and everything outside of their community.
Right.
And it can be usually it is for religious purposes to try and maintain the purity of their community.
Right. Calling them outlander.
Yes, which I suppose would be their way of saying outsider.
Was there any other aspects from it that you thought were fascinating or intriguing or something you liked?
I liked the struggle between the two leaders of trying to see which one is really in charge. Is it Isaac or is it Malachi?
Right.
And well, actually, the true answer is that actually it's neither of them.
Yeah.
What also interested me is that, well, saying it is written, however, I don't recall in any text anywhere in which, upon the age of 19, that they are to be sacrificed. I think that what that's trying to do is it's trying to portray, well, that sometimes religious fanatics say that it's this way or that way. And why is that? Well, it's because it says so, yet when you actually read it, you realize you're making this up as you go, aren't you? Yes. And your point is?
Well, the difference between interpretations of religion and text in real life and in the movie is what they believe in was real.
Yes.
They could actually see it. So saying that you need to sacrifice yourself when you're officially an adult, it's based in some kind of reality because this thing was speaking through Isaac the entire time. If it had been just psychological horror, it'd be up for debate. As you were saying, it'd be like, well, herd mentality. But everything they believed in was proven in the end. So it really makes you think about the motive of whatever this was. He who walks behind the rose.
Yes, I'm still wondering what it could have been. Could it have been from another planet, or could it have been from this planet? Also, was it some sort of physical being, or was it a manifestation of something psychological emerging into reality?
Maybe.
Somewhat like in It.
Yeah. It's a Stephen King story.
Yes.
So, and that's a topic he really, really likes. So yeah, that's, there is some weight to that. I will say, even though I agree that the ending and whatever was a little lackluster, I think up until then, especially for 1984, and I will stress that, if you were born in the 80s, you know how this was pretty cool. It's still pretty cool, but it's also impressive to look back now, decades later, the part where whatever it was under the earth, like kind of coming after them, still holds up. That is so good. I remember being 8 and seeing that, just being like, whoa. And another reason it's funny that this was the first horror movie I ever saw is because I live in Ohio. There's corn everywhere. Cornfields scared the shit out of me for years because of this movie. What log trucks on the highway are for people now from Final Destination 2, corn was for me at 8 years old from this movie. I knew there was nothing in the corn. I knew that. But anything could be in the corn at the same time. It's like Schrodinger's corn. The corn is both empty and full of terrors at the same time.
It seems to me like all that you were was being cautious because, well, it is possible for someone to hide in the corn.
It is possible for a murderous cult of children to be in the corn. And you're 8 years old and they would try and recruit you. Looking back, I probably would have joined them. Anything else you want to talk about or stuck out or anything before I go to my notes?
One unique thing that I noticed that seemed to stand out a bit was the site.
What do you mean?
Well, that it seems that at least some of the people in this town, they have some sort of power. For example, Isaac is getting information from the entity.
Sarah has
Yes, and the site, which she then makes into pictures.
Another huge Stephen King thing. Somebody having the site or The Shining. Very, very big. It's another huge thing in Stephen King's universe.
Yes, I noticed that and thought that this is similar to The Shining, and I suppose that it would.
Yeah.
It should, because it's the same writer.
Yeah. He likes to dip in the same ink over and over. And I'm not complaining. He's a good writer.
And to think that all of this happened simply because Bert didn't know how to mind his own business. Well, think about it. Simply walking into somebody's house.
Yeah. The 80s were a different time, folks.
And he seemed inconsistent at, such as, we need to go, no, let's stay. We need to go, no, let's stay.
Yeah.
All right, which is it? Are you
Yeah.
going or staying? What are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
Let's go to the notes.
Okay.
Philip's notes.
Now, granted, remember, these notes are like, I remember the beats, you know, the couple, how they got there, the children, a few things here and there at the end. But all the like stuff in the like the little like nitty gritty stuff, I don't remember. When you ingest as much horror as I have, it's just like, there's so much going on. One thing I've always appreciated about this movie, and I think it's one of the reasons it worked so well, is that Isaac was perfectly cast. You could not have asked for a better creepy, evil-looking, intimidating child actor than him. And for having a bunch of child actors, not bad. Some of them were, the acting was varying degrees of including from the adult cast, one person in particular. I think Malachi and Isaac did a really good job of acting. Malachi was also cast perfectly as Isaac's muscle. I mean, if I had to nitpick anything there, I wish we'd had just a little more power struggle between them. It kind of seemed to come out of nowhere. But then again, they'd been together for 3 years, so it's kind of just a given that over time, you know, he'd grow tired of Isaac and Isaac stuff. But it was one of the best casting decisions in movie history. I mean, I know it sounds like I'm speaking with hyperbole. I'm not. I think if you cast anyone else in the role of Isaac at that time, it wouldn't have worked because he just looked like with a hat, and it's iconic to me. And
Not only the demeanor, but even the voice.
exactly, yeah. Like he was just 100% perfectly cast. So people can make fun of me for, I mean, you're over exaggerating. I don't think I am. I think it was just, yeah, no one else could have played Isaac like that, in my opinion. Looking at this from more mature eyes, I said that Isaac has the distinction of looking 12 and 42 at the same time. Because he looked like a kid. He also looked 42. Like, people can make fun of me saying I look like Justin's dad, which I'm going all in on. But it was weird. He looked young old.
It was a very interesting combination.
Yeah. I found a piece of trivia that I wanted to share with you real quick. Remember the joke I made earlier about Isaac looking both 12 and 42 at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
When he filmed this movie, he was 24 years old. How? He has it's called GHD. It's a growth defect. Or some kind, not a defect, but so he's much younger than he actually is.
I wonder how I can catch that.
So that's why I think that's why he looks simultaneously old and young, because he is.
So that's why he looked the way that he did.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating bit of trivia. The biggest detriment to me was the whole like relationship shit between them. Like, she wanted engagement, he wasn't ready. She was trying to like be all butthurt and guilt trippy about it. And it's just like, just because you want something and someone else isn't ready doesn't mean they have to cave into you. I hate that egocentric mindset. I don't care what your gender is. I don't care what it is. I hate that. Like, something that important, that serious, needs to be mutual. If you're forcing someone to do something they don't want to do, just for your happiness, then what kind of person are you?
A manipulator.
Exactly. Now, I get that she loved him and she wanted to be, I get that. But they're moving, or, you know, they're going to like this new practice, going to a new town. He just sounded like he graduated from medical school.
Mm-hmm.
Let him get assimilated first. Let him get comfortable. Obviously, he's not going anywhere. He's taking you with him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know you're happy. And I know you. I get it. I get it. Just slow your damn roll. And then she's like, you have to be a jerk about it. What was he being nothing? He was being a jerk about nothing. She was over. And then she's like, no room for commitment. I'm just like, we get it. I'm going to go on a Rose rant, but with Linda Hamilton's character. Oh, my Lord. I got where her character was coming from. And my feelings on the leads switched, which I'll get to in a few minutes. I did appreciate that at least they tried to go the right way. To, I think it was Hemingford. So they're trying to go.
I think so.
I appreciate that they tried to actually keep it. So like, no, I'm going to go this way. And let's take the shortcut. Crap in movies. So they didn't. They were trying to go the right way. But the kids had manipulated the signs, so they couldn't, which I like that. I think if you're driving down a dirt corn road, maybe it's time to turn the fuck around.
Yes. I was curious about exactly what his motive was at that point. And by the way, while all of this is happening, you do remember when going through that house and everything, and through the city, you do realize that there's still a decomposing body in your trunk.
I wrote that right there. That's my last note. But yep, I wrote the kid is still in the trunk. Yep. I forgot about it as a kid because I obviously wasn't paying attention to that. But adult me is like, wait a minute. There's still a decomposing body in your trunk. That's why you went there in the first place.
With your license plate on it.
Yeah. The camera work is really well done for the most part in this. Like the notion of being followed or being spied upon from just the camera ducking behind a barrel, looking between, things, like really good, really well done. It's one of the reasons I think the movie holds up all these years later. If you walk up to some corn and the corn parts for you, don't go the fuck in the corn. Turn around and walk away from the corn.
He didn't at all think to observe to see what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm going to get to him in just a second. I like the part in the church where the one girl says, "Get Isaac." Wait, no. Bring Malachi. And the entire congregation goes, ooh. That moment is so good because it just shows that when it comes to power, Malachi has the fear. Of course, Isaac's all talk. Malachi even said, I showed them what I could do. Isaac just talks, but he was indeed in the end the messenger for he who walks behind the rose.
Well, ultimately, which one is going to be more intimidating? The one with the powerful words or the ones with the powerful muscle?
Yeah.
Which one is going to be more intimidating?
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool scene and just showing that dynamic between them.
The one who's verbally abusive, well, that person will make you feel bad. The muscle, well, that person is going to make you feel physically bad.
Yeah, right. And something I never picked up on until now. Bert is a dick. Bert is a giant fucking dick. Oh my God. Was I annoyed with Vicky in the beginning? Yeah. It was a little irritating. But holy shit, the real villain in this movie is fucking Bert. He was bossy, pushy, literally. He was just pushing kids out of the way. And there would be a scene where he in the movie would push the kid and I was like, did the actor not enjoy being there? Also, Bert, not a very good actor. If you have a movie that's predominantly a cast of children, and the worst actor is the main guy, that's saying a lot. I thought he was horrible. When Job goes to help him, he's like, "What are you doing here?" And Job's like, "Excuse me." I'm like, "Yeah, you dick."
I thought in my head, you're welcome?
Right, yeah. I did not realize how much of him being an absolute asshole to everyone there was. And then like you said, like him like, "We need to leave. Oh, there's a house. What are you doing? I'm going to check this house. But you said we need to leave. I'm going to go check the house. Don't patronize me. I'm not It's like, what? What? I get it for the plot. Obviously, that's how it was written. But just thinking, like, look outside looking in, from the character standpoint, if you're Vicky, you're like, "What are you doing?" And if they're kids, if you're the kids, you're like, "Why are you so fucking mean?" And I don't mean just to the cult of the corn. I mean the two little kids, the other ones, Sarah and Job. He was mean to them too. He was pushy and bossy and just... I did not realize until this watching, ever. It's been, like I said, decades since I've seen this. But looking at it from a different viewpoint and perspective, as I said earlier, I'm like, holy crap, you're a giant douche. I wish you had died. Then he says, Hemingford's 19 miles, right? And I'm thinking to myself, you tried to drive there earlier. Is anything going to change with the signs now that the corn monster's dead? And what's going on with the children? The rest of them? Are they just like going to like stay in the town?
Are they going to continue the cult? Or is it now basically non-existent because it was so oriented towards its leaders, and well, with leaders gone, now they have no one to turn to?
They do address that in the sequel. Well, the first of many. There's been so many sequels to this.
Oh.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. Sequels and reboots. Reboot was horrible. Yeah, in part 2, they actually address that. But in this standalone movie, as he's walking away with the two kids, what about, like, there should have just been like a army of children following them down the road.
Yes, one would think that, considering how, especially at the beginning of the film, they were very dedicated to this, and all of a sudden they're turning away. They're going to do something else now?
Yeah. But yeah, I'm like, if you think you're gonna be walking 19 miles and you try to drive it early and you drove like 50. And then the last thing I wrote was the kid is still in the trunk, which we talked about. And everything else in my notes are for my patrons over on Patreon. All right, we are back. We had to take a break.
Oh yes, we needed to cool down.
Yeah, it got so... It's summer. I say it in every video. It's like 90 degrees. There's a train coming, I think. But it became so unbearably hot that we couldn't really comfortably think, I guess, if that makes sense. So we had to take a break, cool the apartment down a little bit. So we spent about 10 minutes just running some AC, running some fans. And we're going to continue on with some thoughts that we had about the movie. So, because we did do a little bit of discussion while we were cooling down, but nothing in depth. You just said you wanted to touch upon some subjects more in depth. And one of them that I was most excited to have you watch the movie for, as I said earlier, was the religious side of things. Because you have that degree in religious studies. So other than the isolation aspect, was there anything in the movie that stuck out to you from like something you'd studied in religion, a certain religion, anything like that?
Well, yes. The dominant thing in religion here that it's going off of the notion of cults and of hierarchy and herd mentality, things like that. The horrors of what such a thing can do.
Right.
This was written by Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed something interesting. It may or may not be a coincidence that the character's name is Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
You probably know the story of the Binding of Isaac.
Yeah. Let anyone who might not know.
In Genesis, there is a character, Abraham, and God tests his dedication and devotion by asking him to sacrifice his son, Isaac. And when he does bind him and is about to, then he is stopped. Because it was only a test.
Yep.
Although in this case, actually, in the film, Isaac is bound and he actually is sacrificed.
Yeah. When I was younger, I always thought it was cool, like when he came back. Like I thought that's one thing I think they did really well as far as effects go. Isaac's voice when he came back, like he wants you to Malachi, which is my horrible interpretation of that. I thought it was really cool.
I thought it was a very interesting use of using a biblical reference. Well, we both have been thinking things. For example, I was wondering, well, like I said about the Binding of Isaac, well, why choose that particular story instead of any other one? And well, the more that I think about it, the more that I see that this is actually the scariest story in the Bible. How do you know, for example, well, what would you do if you were in this situation? How does Abraham know that that's even God? Could it be an evil spirit pretending to be God? Or could he be suffering from madness, hearing voices?
A voice told him to do it.
And so there are so many things that one could take into consideration that makes this a frightful story, because how does one really know? Well, we don't.
Yeah.
At least the good part is that he doesn't actually do it.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
But yes, it does make one wonder. And what's his motivation? Well, he was being driven by blind faith, and well, what were the children doing? They were being driven by blind faith. So I see the connection here.
Right.
I suppose that would be the Bible's the most horror-themed story that I can think of, because it involves a psychological horror for the reader, what they would do if they were in this situation. And also there's a question, well, is it really God talking to him?
Who knows? Yeah.
As far as Abraham knew, yes, I wondered, Abraham, can you trust this voice? Of course I can. It's the same voice that told me to cut a piece of my own penis off. Alright, maybe I shouldn't ask any more about what this voice told you to do.
Yeah, he has a point.
Did you want to explain the sickle?
Oh. Anyone that's come over to my house or has known me for an extended period of time, I've had this hanging on a wall somewhere. I got this many years ago from an actual farm. It was one of those like garage sales. It happened to be at somebody's farm. They had a scythe. And I really, really wanted it, but we couldn't fit it in the car. I was like, no, I want the scythe. It was one of those like double-handed ones, like one of those legit scythes. So I settled for this sickle. And I have it in tribute to Children of the Corn, because it was the reason I watch horror, the reason I got into horror. The movie holds a very special place for me, as does horror. Before I met you, if I'd go on a date, people would come over, they'd be like, why do you have a sickle on your wall? This is why. It's not to be creepy or intimidating or anything weird like that. It's just because Children of the Corn.
Interestingly, I actually never saw that as intimidating. I saw it as fascinating and wanted to know about any story behind it.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
Yeah.
I thought that it actually is aesthetically pleasing. It goes very well with the decor.
Nice. And I like that it's legitimate. It's not like some prop or something you get. It's from a farmer. It's legitimately a sickle. Yeah. So now you know the story of why I have it. Because I said I'd tell you one day when the time was right.
Now I know.
Here we are. You now know the story of why the hell Philip has a random sickle. It's not so random after all. It's an experience I'd like to share. Better than just being all like, oh, Children of the Corn was the first horror movie I ever watched, and as a tribute to that, this is why I have it. I'd be like, oh, that's nice. But if you see the movie, and then you hear about like how meaningful it was to me, it has more gravitas, I think, when you experience it firsthand. Like I know we thought it was really amusing. We touched on it earlier, but maybe with a clearer head. We joked about how the guy kind of forgot his objective. Bert kind of forgot the reason he was in the town in the first place, like why he was trying to find a town.
Yes, he seemed to remember and then forget and remember and forget.
Yeah.
It seemed as if his motivation to do things changed very sporadically.
In some respects, it had to. When his hand was forced to, but in general, yes.
Well, you see, for example, like when where was he going? He was going to the town hall. You still remember that there is a dead body in your trunk.
Yeah, like the entire motivation for trying to find a phone was lost. The second and third act, obviously, there's a reason why. But in the first act, he was a little...
Yes.
As we described earlier, before the break.
So what is he looking for? Is he looking for the town? Is he looking for the telephone? Is he looking for people?
Or is he looking for answers? Is he looking for Isaac? Is he looking for his girlfriend? Is he looking for...
His objectives seem to change too much.
Yeah. In addition to him being a massive dick.
Maybe it's a little too convenient for the plot that he was like that, even though I thought that it was good for the film to have it not be so convenient by going where they went because the signs were misplaced.
Yeah.
And not becoming some sort of Scooby-Doo trope, let's investigate sort of thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Which is something that I highly doubt that people would actually do in such a situation.
Yeah. It is interesting how the kid's body in the trunk kind of became a MacGuffin, but in the end really didn't serve any purpose. Because like I said, in the end, like in my last line of notes, other than the stuff from my patrons, is
yes,
it's decomposing in the Nebraska heat.
Yes, in your vehicle with your license plate.
Yeah.
And when people open it, what do you think that people are going to think happened?
Well, officer, there's all this corn. There was a cult of corn kids, and see the corn? see the knocked out girl in my front seat?
I do see that it would have probably have been best if they, oh, it may sound cruel, but if they had left the body there. Because, well, now that he picked it up and put it in the trunk, all right, he now tampered with evidence. You've tampered with a crime scene.
There you go, yeah.
What you should have done was to continue driving and report it.
But then again, 1984, I guess you pick up a dead child's body and put it in your trunk.
And for whatever reason, walk into somebody's house, that's trespassing. And it's actually an abandoned-looking house. So as far as they knew, some crazy person could be living there.
Well, not in that house, but in that vicinity, yes.
Yes.
There were many of them.
Was this typical in the 80s? For people to just simply walk into someone's house?
We are from Midwestern towns, albeit not small ones. If you are from a small Midwestern town and you grew up in the 80s, would that have been commonplace for people to just walk inside your house? I would say no. But I grew up in more of a city than a small town. So I would say no. But I don't know how it would work if you lived in like small town Nebraska, like small town Nebraska. The kind with like one grocery store and one barber shop and, you know, one of the essentials, you know. So yeah, I'm not sure. I can't say yes. I can't say no. Different times.
They were probably inhabited by people who didn't mind their own business then. That seemed to be what was going on with Bud, that he needs to figure this out. And with all of that, I kept on wondering, why do you care?
Yeah.
Why do you care if somebody lives here?
They should have just kept driving rather than going to the house.
Stopping because he thought that he saw something move, that maybe someone is there.
So?
Yes, that's what I thought. Well, why do you care?
Right.
So, yes, somebody lives there.
Well, I mean, as far as people minding their own business,
Yes.
that is timeless because we live in this time now, and they are now known as Karens. Now they're shamed like they should be, and there's a name for you, as there should be. Mind your own damn business, Karen. Is there anything else you'd like to add about the movie before we officially wrap this up?
No.
Okay.
Do you?
I don't think so. I think I touched on everything from my notes and the earlier discussion. This was a bit disjointed. We usually do our stream of consciousness, and I go to my notes. This was like free form, then notes, then back to free form, just because, you know, took a break and then we're like, we have more stuff we want to say. So I'm glad we did.
That seems it for me.
Yeah, me as well. Well, let's going to wrap this one up. It is getting warm again. It's what happens when it's like 3:30 in the morning and it's like 85 degrees outside. So yeah, we're going to wrap this up. We're going to go turn the AC and the fans back on. And yeah.
And keep them on.
Yeah, keep them on this time. As always, I don't have a fancy outro, so I'll simply say thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.